August 24, 2001. Air Transat Flight 236 is cruising over the pitch-black Atlantic. Then, the right engine suddenly dies. 13 minutes later, the left engine goes quiet, and the entire cabin plunges into darkness. A 200-ton Airbus has just become a powerless glider. Below them is the freezing ocean. The nearest runway is hundreds of miles away in the Azores. The flight took off with over 46 metric tons of fuel, more than enough to complete the trip. But somewhere over the Atlantic, that fuel vanished. Commercial jets operate under ETOPS standards, which certify that they can fly safely on a single engine. There is no training manual for a scenario where both engines fail simultaneously. The 306 people on board are now entirely dependent on the pilot's ability to diagnose a catastrophic failure they cannot see, while navigating a silent aircraft through the night. 9 days earlier, this plane needed a routine engine swap. Because an exact match wasn't available, Rolls Royce sent an older model to the maintenance hangar. The replacement engine looked identical on the outside, but the internal fuel and hydraulic tubes did not perfectly align with the plane's newer systems. Facing a tight deadline and unaware that the adaptation manual was on an unread CD in the same building, a technician took a shortcut. He mixed the old and new tube designs to make them fit together. This diagram shows the result of the shortcut. Once airborne, intense vibration forced these mismatched metal tubes to violently rub against one another. As we zoom in, see how hours of friction carved a sharp L-shaped fracture directly into the high-pressure fuel line. The disaster was seeded days earlier by a few millimeters of metal scraping against metal and a digital manual that was never opened. Back on Flight 236, hours before the engine shut down, fuel was pouring out of that crack at a rate of 13 metric tons per hour. The pilots had no way of knowing. Airbus had opted not to install automated fuel leak sensors, despite a nearly identical incident occurring 4 years prior. Instead, the cockpit computers flagged a simple fuel imbalance. As you can see on this recreated display, the left wing fuel levels appeared normal, while the right wing levels were dropping rapidly. The pilots assumed they were dealing with a computer glitch. Relying on their memory instead of the specific emergency checklist, they followed standard protocol for an imbalance and opened the crossfeed valve to equalize the tanks. This top-down schematic illustrates the consequence. By opening the valve, the pilots actively pumped the remaining healthy fuel from the left wing into the broken right wing, where it drained directly into the ocean. A logical decision based on incomplete data became the very action that emptied the plane's tanks. When the engines die, the only thing keeping the basic flight instruments alive is the ram air turbine. This is a small emergency windmill that drops from the belly of the plane to generate power from the rushing air. Commanding the flight is Captain Robert Piché, a pilot with 16,800 hours of flying experience. Before his career in commercial airlines, Piché worked as a bush pilot. He spent years landing small planes on remote dirt strips and lakes, often forced to manage unpowered descents in the wilderness. Now, he must execute a 19-minute glide to a military airbase in the Azores. Without engine power, he has no option for a go-around. He has to hit the runway perfectly on the first attempt. Piché's experience landing in unmapped terrain provided a high-stakes intuition for unpowered flight that traditional commercial training rarely covers. Without engine reverse thrust to slow the plane, it hits the tarmac hard. The extreme braking blows the tires and locks the wheels, sending sparks flying as the landing gear grinds down to the metal. The plane comes to a complete halt. Every one of the 306 people on board survives the landing. The investigation revealed a system where millions of dollars in engineering were unraveled by a single unread manual and a missed connection between two metal tubes. Flight 236 demonstrates that when a complex network of technology fails, the final line of defense remains the person behind the controls.